Hello and welcome everybody. Thanks for stopping by. I have got a fun double slider card to share today. Now this one, the main piece part of it measures 4 by 6 inches, and then there's a bit of extra on the ends because I've added tabs to this. But it's really quite fun, and you don't need any special dies to make this one. So to make it, I've got 2 pieces of 4 1/4 by 6 inch card. Those will be the front and the back. And then I've got 1 piece of 4 by 6, and I'll talk about that one in a little bit. And then 2 pieces of 3 1/4 by 6 1/4. Now these, you want to be very sturdy cardstock, so at least 120 pounds. I think mine's 130. But that's going to make the whole main mechanism of this, and you want it to be nice and strong so it doesn't wobble and bend. On the 4 1/4 by 6 inch pieces, I'm going to score them both at 4 inches right along the 4-inch side. And then I've put double-sided tape on these, and I'm going to fold them down and give them all a good burnish. And I'll do that for both the front and the back pieces. Now this 4 by 6 piece, I would highly recommend that you trim it down. Just take an 1/8 of an inch off the 4-inch side, so it's maybe 3 7/8 by 6. And you'll thank me for that later, trust me, because I've done this a couple of times now. But I was marking 1/4 of an inch along the 4-inch side at the top and bottom, and then I'll draw a line between those 2 marks. And then this part we're going to remove. So I've gone in 1/4 of an inch, and we're going to remove this. So you can see how that's going to come out. It's going to make a bit of what I think of it as an eye-shaped mechanism. So I'm just trimming down the 1/4 of an inch there, and then I'll trim between those to remove that middle section, that long piece. And you're going to get this start of, well, when they're both done, I think of that as a big fat eye. I don't know, but that's the main mechanism. So that's what you want. You're just trimming 1/4 of an inch out and 1/4 of an inch down. Now you need a plastic bag for this. So I've got a large freezer Ziploc bag that is perfect because it's got to be long enough to wrap around that mechanism, and this bag is just great for that. And it's thick plastic. So I'm just cutting it open. And now I've wrapped it around the left-hand side of that mechanism, and I've put some double-sided tape on the front of it. I'm holding it tight on the left side, but this right side, you don't want it to be super tight, and you don't want it to be super loose. It's kind of, you just need to fold it over and then basically press it down into that double-sided tape there. And I would test it. So you want to make sure it rolls nice and easily. You should be able to do it with one hand so it rolls like that. If it's too tight or too loose, pull it apart. You might need to add more tape, but do it so that you get it right. Now these pieces, the 3 1/4 inch pieces, are going to go about 1/4 of an inch down from the edge of that eye mechanism, about there. And so I'm just placing them there because I'm going to make the tab. And so I'm going to mark where the end of that eye mechanism ends. And whatever is on the right of that will end up being my pull tab. So you could technically just leave it straight like that. I'm just showing you the front piece. When it covers it, that's what you're going to see. That'll be the tab on the right. So that's all I was marking with the pencil there. Now I do like to, I kind of shape mine. You'll see what I'm going to do here, but you don't have to do this step. You could leave the whole thing as a tab and just round those corners. But me, I'm going to do it the hard way. So I'm marking the center, and then I'm just deciding how wide I want my tab to be. So I'm just going to go about 1/2 an inch in from each end. And I've already marked that point there where the card front ends. So from the card front end, I'm just going to draw straight down and top and bottom, and then I'll connect that those marks at the bottom there with that. Now all of this corner we don't want, and you can kind of see how that's going to make a tab. So I'm holding both pieces of cardstock together and just trimming that little corner out. And because my corner rounder won't fit in there, I am just corner rounding that on my own with my scissors, flipping it over and doing the other side as well. And so then you get this sort of rounded tab on this both sides. One will go one way, one goes the other. Now this is the perfect time if you're going to do any ink blending or add pattern paper, put it on now before these get attached. But with this plastic, you want that seam to be off to the left. You don't want that one having to roll around. It'll catch a little bit if it goes right around the corner of that mechanism. So I'm going to I've put double-sided tape on the left-hand side just to show you. Normally I just put it on the panel like this and then stick that down. But just to show you, I've put it on this plastic so you can kind of see that's where it's going to end up, is right about there. Now, I always put these down. I'm lining up the right-hand side actually. So I'm just lining up this tab between the eye mechanism, the top and the bottom, and so that the edges are lined up with the edge of the outside edge of that eye mechanism, and then I'll press it down into place. And you can see there is about 1/4 inch on the side there that is just plastic. So I'll do the same thing with this one, and this is how I would normally do it. I put the tape on the back of the panel, and then again I'll line up the right hand side so the top of that eye mechanism and the bottom line up with the side edge of that panel just before where the tab sticks out, and then you can press it down and you'll see it's about the same on either side. So it's about 1/4 inch, and the whole thing would just pop apart if it could. But that's why we're going to enclose it now in the front and the back pieces. And so that plastic just rotates around that eye mechanism and makes the panels come out. It's quite ingenious actually. So I've removed the release paper on the one side of either the front or the back piece, and I'm butting this eye mechanism right up into that fold. And then we're just going to fold that flap over. So it's going to attach onto the very top piece of the eye mechanism. So I'm going to give it a good burnish. Now here's what we've just done. So that's the piece we just attached. So I've flipped it over now, and we're going to put this front or back piece on the other side. So I'm just checking that my flap will fold over. I'll remove the release paper, and then I've got everything lined up left to right, and I'm going to fold this over. So that first piece that we added should be at the bottom, as you can see down there. Now we can take this release paper off and fold that bottom piece up and over to that top section there. So now that's got one side of that eye mechanism enclosed and trapped inside. And then we'll flip it all over again and do the same thing here. Remove that release paper and then fold this over nice and flat. And that's why you'll be glad that you trimmed off that 1/8 inch, just so that it fits inside those fold lines. And then you're going to want to do this over and over. Now, when it's all closed down, it measures about 7 inches by 4 across. So it will fit into a 5x7 envelope with those tabs. But if you don't want to have those, if you've got a 4x6 envelope, you could just cut semicircles out of the front section, and then that gives you a thumb hold. But I just like the added tabs just to make it more obvious that that's what you have to do. So I've decorated mine. I've used the Little Baker die cuts from Paper Rose Studio. And I've also, from some of that scrap purple paper, I just fussy cut little arrows out that I'm sticking onto those tabs so that people will know that's what they have to do. So there you go. It's so much fun to pull these out, honestly. And I just added a bit of gel marker, little dots around, sort of like sprinkles, I guess. So there you have it. A couple of ideas. I hope you guys will give these a try. They're fun, lots of fun. Talk to you later. Bye.